Hey everybody, I am Jake, aka Bomber, and I welcome you into Jobber Radio's monthly Deathmatch Rundown. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you several different things that took place in May 2023 inside the deathmatch world of professional wrestling. I'm talking anything from 5 must-see death matches that you better not skip over to a look back in the Deathmatch Archives. We're also going to see what all transpired during a deathmatch tournament down in Houston. And when it comes to those deathmatch championships, I have you covered in recapping each and every title match from the month. Now let's get this bad boy started with the Jesus Christ Spot of the Month. For the first time here on the monthly Deathmatch Rundown, we find ourselves in Impact Wrestling at the Under Siege 2023 event. I don't care what anybody says, the main event saw a death match between PCO and the Impact World Champion, Steve Maclin. During this absolute bloodbath, we saw Maclin grab a stapler and start trash-talking PCO, who was laying on the ring apron. And that is when it happened, folks. Steve started stapling PCO's lips shut as the crowd screamed in horror. He then drove staples into his cheeks and chest, leaving PCO to do his best Frankenstein monster walk before grabbing a pair of needle nose pliers and pulling the staples out of his own lips. Rightfully so, this got a "you sick fuck" chant from the fans. And wow, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Impact Wrestling takes the Jesus Christ Spot of the Month in May. I think it's time we cover a death match tournament. We are going to Houston, Texas for Wrestle Rave's Death Triad 2 tournament. It took place on April 29th. Yes, it did take place in April, but it didn't air on IWTV until May. So that's why you're getting it right here on the Deathmatch Rundown. Jobber Radio did sponsor the show, and I'm not just saying this because we did sponsor the show. You need to go watch it. It is a solid show from front to back to front. I promise you. Let me know down below. Am I lying? I am not lying. I will not let you down right here, right now. Go watch it. It won't disappoint. Regardless, though, I'm going to recap the tournament right here, right now. 3 first-round triple threat matches going to a finals triple threat match. The Wrestle Rave Deathmatch Championship on the line in each round. The winner of the tournament walks away the champion. Let's get to the tournament. Starting off the first triple threat match for round number 1, we saw All-Star Matlock take on the Deathmatch Jesus, Dmitry Alexandrov. And with Oren Veit not able to make the show, we had a surprise replacement, Wrestle Rave's fan favorite, Just Nick. Early on, Just Nick showed his impressive speed, but Locke countered a second buckshot lariat, driving Nick into a barbed wire board to eliminate him first in the match. After coming down to Alexandrov and Locke, the ultra violence was turned up a notch to see who would move on to the finals. Even after getting 2 syringes stuck through his cheeks, Alexandrov was able to German suplex Locke through a door strapped with light tubes just before finishing him off to pick up the 3-count victory. Up next, we had the Hoss match of round number 1. Uncivil Satu Jin came down to the ring to take on another man making his Wrestle Rave debut, Hoodfoot Mo Atlas, and their opponent, a local fan favorite, Sam Stackhouse. And naturally, the Outsiders double-team Stackhouse to kick things off and eventually smash multiple light tubes over his head before double choke slamming Sam through a door to eliminate him from the match. Things started to look pretty good for Jin after a big belly-to-belly suplex, his use of a gusset plate bat, and he even put Hoodfoot through a light tube Eiffel Tower, but it was the RKO out of nowhere through a bundle to turn the tide. And then before you knew it, Hoodfoot reversed a vertical suplex into a roll-up to pull out that win. And if I was Jin, I would have argued that just a little bit more because that shoulder was definitely off the mat. But then we came to our final 3-way of round number 1. We had the Deathmatch Hall of Famer, Madman Pondo. He came out to face Remington Roar, who, by the way, came out dual-wielding machetes. And their opponent was the current Wrestle Rave Deathmatch champion, Dr. Redacted. This match pretty much saw it all. I'm talking Roar using his actual machete, smashing cinder blocks over Pondo's back. Redacted using himself like a human wrecking ball. Pondo pulling out a knife, carving up Roar's head, and then using that same knife in the Doctor's mouth. Pondo driving Redacted's head down into the light tubes, Roar slamming Redacted onto a chair and light tubes, Roar military pressing Redacted through a door, and I think you're sensing a pattern here. Yeah, Redacted took a beating. And the crazy thing was, all of this was before an elimination. The first elimination came after Pondo laid another cinder block over the head of Remington Roar before smashing it with a sledgehammer. Wow, yes, Roar was easily eliminated at that point. But then right after that, Redacted was able to hit a great-looking frog splash to then pin and beat the Hall of Famer. That means Dr. Redacted advances to the finals and will be taking his deathmatch title with him. Speaking of those finals, we saw Dmitry Alexandrov take on Hoodfoot and the deathmatch champ, Dr. Redacted. I'm not kidding when I say this match started out with a bang, with Redacted catching Alexandrov off guard during the ring announcements. This finals kind of resembled Suplex City here because everybody was getting a ton of offense in. Later on into the match, though, after taking a scary-looking powerbomb to the outside of the ring, something kind of weird happened. Dmitry gave Hoodfoot a clothesline and would go for a pin attempt, and the ref counted to 3, but that was after Hoodfoot got his shoulder up. The crowd was obviously angry that Hoodfoot was wrongly eliminated here, and he smashed some light tubes over the ref Killian's back before leaving the ring. With that surprise elimination, that means the Death Triad 2 winner was down between Redacted and Alexandrov. We got to see some solid brawling and high risk take place outside of the ring, but eventually they fought their way back in for the bloodshed to come to a close. It wasn't the fisherman's suplex through light tubes. It wasn't a DVD through a door. It wasn't even Redacted's frog splash to end the match. It was Matlock running into low blow Alexandrov, setting him up for an absolutely brutal looking curb stomp to finally end the match. Redacted sat on Dmitry's chest, picking up the 3 count and the Death Triad 2 win. He walked into the Death Triad 2, your Wrestle Rave Deathmatch champion, and Dr. Redacted walks out with the title still in his possession. Normally right now on the rundown, I would take a look at the Deathmatch Wrestling news, but in May there wasn't a whole lot. Sure there was, some drama going on Twitter and stuff like that, but not ever going to cover that stuff here on the rundown. Only going to cover, news things, and nothing really happened this month. So instead, I think why not debut a new segment on the show. The new segment is called the Deathmatch Archives, where we take a look back at a single match, we pull it out from the Deathmatch Wrestling history, and we break it down. So let's get to the first match right here in May. Opening up the Deathmatch Archives, we find ourselves back on May 12th of 2001 inside Combat Zone Wrestling and inside the infamous Station 44 in Smyrna, Delaware. It was on this night that CZW and Deathmatch Wrestling as a whole saw one of the wildest, out-of-control, chaotic brawls of all time. The main event was scheduled to see Wifebeater defend his newly won CZW World Championship against Zandig, who was returning from Japan after winning the King of the Death Matches tournament. It was scheduled to be a one-on-one contest, but it turned out to be a full-on riot. So, after Trent Acid defeated Johnny Kashmere in a mystery stipulation match, Zandig came out to deliver the punishment. He was disgusted that Acid and Kashmere shook hands after the match, so he laid Kashmere out and chucked him out of the ring. It was here where he broke the news that the mystery stipulation was a loser leaves CZW match. CZW fans know how that stipulation worked out, but as he announced that, out came the Wifebeater to deck Zandig straight in the face with a bundle of light tubes. And this would kickstart their title match and this wild ride. Because just as things got started, Justice Payne's music hit, and out he came with a barbed wire board. The two started double teaming Zandig, and I just want to real quick point out that the crowd was absolutely nuts throughout this entire match. The 2-on-1 wouldn't be enough because soon we had Big Mac Smack and all the others come into the ring and tie up Zandig's hands and his feet. Not only that, they brought in a pulley system where they literally started pulling Zandig apart, torture style, looking to dismember him. Hence the show name, Stretched in Smyrna. As Zandig was being ripped in half, Wifebeater and Justice Payne took that opportunity to smash even more light tubes over his back. Do you think that would be enough? Of course not. Wifebeater and crew lit candles, pouring hot wax all over Zandig's body, continuing this torture.
It's Station 44. Thank God we're in a firehouse. What are they having, like a seance? It's like a sacrifice in there.
Finally seen enough, a member of Zandig's Big Deals, Sicknick Mondo, ran out to try and help. Still being outnumbered though, Mondo's help backfired and he began taking a ton of punishment. And that's when out came the Hate Club, Nick Gage and Nate Hatred, to join on Zandig's side. And it wouldn't be a party without the Iron Man champion Lobo, who ran out to help Wife Beater's crew. Try and keep up because we are just getting started. Zandig starts getting stretchered out of his own match as this chaos continues. People are flying out of the ring, wiping out people unexpectedly. Guitars were being shattered over Hatred and Mondo's bodies. Gage was hitting amazing looking chokebreakers on his brother, Justice Payne. Light tube 2x4s were brought into the mix, as well as what looked like a light bulb cat o' nine tails. Several crutches were destroyed. Blood had to have stained the floors with all of the suplexes onto the concrete. Speaking of suplexes, just look how painful all of these were. There were also insane table contraptions being set up to later be used for a pain thriller. Eventually, Zandig did return to the ring, wielding a weed whacker.
It's back! Are you kidding me? And he's got the weed whacker! I haven't seen that in over a year in CZW!
The boss would hit his mother effing bomb through a bundle of light tubes, pinning Wife Beater to become the new CZW World Champion. This would mark John Zandig's 4th world title reign, and even as a heel, the crowd could not help but cheer and chant CZW after all that mayhem they just witnessed. And I also believe the camera work really added to this match. It felt like a crazy Blair Witch scene, but with, tons of blood. I tried to capture just a hint of how crazy this match actually was, and this brawl still holds up today. The intensity is damn near unmatched when it comes to deathmatch brawls, and I think you should go out of your way to check this out in its full entirety. Just try your best to ignore Z-Bar, who joins on guest commentary here. Now it's time to cover all the Deathmatch Championship matches that took place in May of 2023, and there were a freaking lot this month. Obviously, I'm not going to include the Wrestle Rave Deathmatch Championship matches, which took place at the Death Triad 2, because we just covered those matches in full detail. But we got a lot of other ones to cover, so let's get into them. Kicking off the championship matches this month, we're going to start with the ICW American Deathmatch World Championship. With ICW No Holds Barred having to call an audible on their UK tour plans, we find ourselves at the Volume 46 show, Rolling with the Punches. That is where the champion Hoodfoot put his title up against a member of the Rejects, Reed Bentley. And you know what? The former American Deathmatch champion completely dominated Hoodfoot the whole first half of this match. He ended up using light tubes, thumbtack bats, panes of glass, firecracker chairs, and he even used mittens and then his own body at times to dish out punishment to the champ. Bentley even got the better of some barroom brawling on the outside. Finally, Hoodfoot did get some offense in with some glass before we saw both men go crashing off the ring apron through a large pane of glass in a flaming door. Bentley even caught on fire for a second there, and then it also looked like he may have jacked up his elbow as well. Regardless, both men answered the 10 count, avoiding a double count out. And you know what? That may have been the best outcome for this match, because after some more heavy hitting moves, we saw quite a bizarre ending. Bentley hit his hammerlock clothesline and fell on top of Hoodfoot, pitting him clean in the middle of the ring. I can't imagine how this was a mistake on anybody's part, and the crowd just booed and everybody looked around very confused. The ring announcer looked confused. Reed was named the new champion. Then out came Danny DeMonto and restarted the match because he said he wanted the fans to go home happy. With the match restarted, Hoodfoot hit a backdrop driver followed by a massive clothesline to the back of the head with some light tubes, and then Hoodfoot won. So if you're keeping score at home, the last 3 months in a row had dusty finishes for the American Deathmatch title. First it happened in March with Neil Diamond Cutter, then in April with Hoodfoot and Kirk, and now again in May with Hoodfoot and Reed. Either way, love it or hate it, Hoodfoot leaves the Volume 46 show still the champion. Next up, we head over to the Hardcore Hustle organization, where Brandon Kirk was putting his H2O Danny Havoc Hardcore World Championship on the line against the first ever Danny Havoc Hardcore champ, Bam Sullivan. And this match started out how any good death match should, with a double nut clutch. Now, this wasn't your bloodiest death match of the month, but it saw plenty of unorthodox brawling outside of the ring. We got trading shotgun kicks through doors. Bam Sullivan had his face driven straight into a grocery cart, as well as his body nearly impaled onto a board with forks sticking out of it. But later, Bam would take control of the match, where he would pull out a television. So I guess a TV just isn't enough. Bam had to go pull out a bottle of lighter fluid and then completely soaked the screen with it. As soon as Bam lit the TV ablaze, Kirk scooped him up from behind, hitting a surprise psycho driver fuck your life onto the burning monitor. With his knee still on fire, Brandon dove on top of Bam, covering him to get the win. And with that win, Brandon Kirk continues his now 8-month reign as Danny Havoc Hardcore World Champion. The XPW King of the Deathmatch champion Shlak was stuck right in the middle of the Horror Slam vs GCW4 event on May 19th, and he would be putting his title up against Horror Slam mainstay Remington Roar. This match pretty much saw two brutes looking to beat the hell out of each other. Before long, these guys were on the outside of the ring delivering clubbing light tube blows to one another, and it seems like these hits would just not stop coming either. Chairs and light tubes would prove to be the weapons of choice in this match. Well, that and Roar's machete that he used in a crossface. I may be wrong here, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he is the first person to pull off a machete crossface. After jockeying for position here, Shlak drove Roar down through more light tubes in a chair with a Samoan drop to put him away for the 3 count. It was a hard-hitting and expectedly bloody affair, but Shlak leaves Horror Slam successfully defending his XPW King of the Deathmatch title. On May 27th, Shlak would put his King of the Deathmatch title on the line for the second time this month, but this time it was at XPW's Broken, Beaten, Scarred. His opponent was a man looking to make a statement, and that was Kit Osborne. Unfortunately for Kit, or fortunately, depending on how you look at this match did not last much more than 5 minutes. But it was 5 minutes of pure chaos. Kit jump-started the match, slamming a bundle of light tubes into the face of Shlak on the outside of the ring that only seemed to piss the champ off, because he would proceed to manhandle Kit, launching him back into some tubes in the corner. He then hit one of the most ruthless-looking pile drivers you will see this month. All fired up, Shlak would then lock in a nice submission attempt, and sure, go ahead and throw in some finger biting while you're at it. This beatdown did briefly come to an end after Shlak missed a diving elbow from the top, because Kit just did his best to mount some type of offense, slamming light tube after light tube on the champ to try and just keep him down, but to no avail. Shlak landed a brutal-looking Polish hammer and then dropped Kit on the back of his head before finishing him off with another clubbing blow. Like I said, this match was pretty quick, but it was extremely hard-hitting, and Kit was left a bloody mess. The year-plus reign as XPW King of the Deathmatch champion continues as we head into the summer. DBA was making his first Horror Slam Deathmatch title defense of this title reign against the man he took the title from, that is Satu Jin, and this took place on the May 19th Horror Slam vs GCW4 show. Early on, DBA had a hard time dealing with Jin's size and strength, but there's nothing a water jug can't fix. They fought out into the fan seats where DBA would start rapid-firing light tube shots over the head of Jin. After that though, Jin took full control of this match, putting a straight-up beatdown on the champ. During this time, Satu Jin brought out his trademark big blade and began cutting through the forehead and mouth of DBA. The tables turned, however, when DBA countered Jin by slamming him face first through a pane of glass set up in the corner of the ring. He would go on to connect with his flaming elbow drop, but just before the 3 count, John Wayne Murdoch pulled the referee out of the ring just out of view of the camera. DBA took a scary-looking shot right to the eye with a light tube here, and it was looking like we were going to get a screw job from the rejects. But DBA was able to duck under a light tube shot here from Murdoch and pull Jin down with a German suplex to score the win. So DBA manages to keep his Horror Slam Deathmatch title even after some outside interference. There was no RPW show this month, but Randy West came to ICW No Holds Barred Volume 46 show and decided to put her RPW Rust Belt Deathmatch Championship up against Jeff Cannonball. Things got weird in this match, as they normally do with Cannonball, but before they did, Jeff put Randy through a door just to start this thing. He would also introduce a deadly piece of paper into this match, which he used to give Randy several different paper cuts. It's also a good thing Jeff and his wife Tara Calloway just got pregnant, because Randy made sure to make that a one-and-done scenario with some center blocks here. Like I said, eventually things did get a little weird at one point. Aw, come on, Jeff. Cannonball would construct one wild-looking contraption consisting of water jugs, cinder blocks, and a door with cut cans on it. But whatever plan he had backfired, because Randy was able to put him through his setup just long enough to score the 3 count. It was an unexpected title match where Randy West keeps her reign going 15 months strong now as the RPW Rust Belt Deathmatch champion. Making her 6th defense of the GCW Ultra Violent Championship, Rina Yamashita took on Jimmy Lloyd in the main event of the May 20th show titled The Way I Am. Some early gusset plates got Jimmy Lloyd leaking from his forehead, while Rina used half of the light tubes on herself. There was a point where Rina was able to muscle Jimmy up onto her shoulders to then roll off the ring apron, driving him straight through a door on the floor. Jimmy was able to recover and land a huge assault driver onto Rina through a pane of glass. That would not be enough to keep the champ down because she would kick out at 1. Rina would then roll through a pane of glass with Jimmy on her shoulders yet again, just before climbing up to the top rope, hitting a beautiful looking frog splash. That's where Jimmy would quickly roll Rina up, trying to steal the match and the title, but she was able to kick out just before the 3. That would also prove to be Jimmy's last hope because a splash mountain through a barbed wire door later, and that was all she wrote. Rina Yamashita scored the victory and walked out still the GCW Ultra Violent Champ. Just 6 days later, in the main event at GCW's Lifestyle Show, Rina would put the Ultraviolet title yet again on the line, but this time against Cole Radrick. This was actually a rematch from back in October of 2022, where Rina defeated Cole in Japan at the War Ready event. That match was very good, and no surprise here, this also delivered. Per usual, Rina was out here breaking just as many light tubes on herself as she did her opponent. Ratty Daddy must have watched Rina's match last week against Jimmy Lloyd because he wouldn't make the same mistake Lloyd did on the outside. He's the one who would hit the DVD on Rina off the ring apron through the door. This match was very back and forth, seeing several different moves that could have ended the match, like Cole's air raid crash through a pane of glass, or even Rina's air raid crash onto a chair and light tube. Later, Cole would hit a nice middle rope senton, but Rina answered with multiple headbutt light tube shots. The end finally did come, though, after Rina powerbombed Radrick through a thick pane of glass and then followed that up with her Splash Mountain Bomb to get the win. That means next month in June, Rina Yamashita will enter Tournament of Survival 8, your current GCW Ultra Violent Champion, and at this point, I think she has to be one of the favorites to win the entire thing. Now it's time to talk about the 5 must-see matches of May 2023. And you know, I really would have put the Impact Wrestling match between Steve Maclin and PCO in this top 5, but I am worried about a little bit of copyright strikes. Impact Wrestling footage, not sure how cool that flies. I was kind of, sweating the Jesus Christ spot of the month myself. That's why I kind of kept that a little short too. But either way, we have 5 really solid matches that happened in May 2023, so let's get to it. Starting off the top 5 matches you need to see in May, we head to Bloodstorm Pro for their show, The End Complete, on May 21st. The team of Blood and Thunder, comprised of Remington Roar and Alex Stretch, took on the Rejects, John Wayne Murdoch and Satu Jin. First of all, I think it would be nice to see some more tag team wrestling death matches in the world, but I understand it's a little chaotic out there, and this match proved exactly that. Now, if you're a fan of light tubes in your death matches, then this match will without a doubt fill that craving. Things started off slow following the traditional tag team rules, but this match would later go completely off the rails with some wild light tube brawling. And that's the best way I can even describe what I was watching here, because when this match spilled outside of the ring, Murdoch even used a trash can full of glass as a weapon. There were spinning heel kicks, and we had doomsday devices. There were light tube log cabins. Glass was flying all into the crowd at points, and we had light tubes. We had light tubes. We had light tubes, and did I mention light tubes yet? I mean, look at the glass in the damn ring. This match came to an end when Roar speared Jin through a pane of glass, and Stretch was able to finish him off with a big splash. Murdoch tried but couldn't break up the count in time, and Blood and Thunder take home the major upset victory. I know I say chaos a lot on these rundowns, but this was the epitome of that, and you need to go watch this match. Let's add more stories into deathmatch wrestling, people. Because at ICW No Holds Barred Volume 46 event, Danny DeMonto was slated to take on 440 member Eric Ryan, but according to Eric, he left it open on Twitter that he wasn't sure if he was going to be wrestling for No Holds Barred that night or XPW. When his music played in the arena, he just didn't come out. Instead, out came Atticus Cogar, and we got this whole ICW versus XPW type war that's been kind of off and on lately, but this brought it out to the forefront. Eventually, Eric Ryan would show up and attack Danny DeMonto from behind, and of course, he was sporting an XPW t-shirt. Now, this match was good, but it was also good because it was emotionally and storyline driven. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was plenty of ultra violence here. We had terracotta pots used, as well as multiple brutal looking light tube spots. Eric would eventually take advantage in the match and start raining down his stomps to the back of the head. That has finished off several opponents in the past for ICW, but referee Shiny Shoes was not calling for the match here. This set Eric off to threaten the ref, causing a distraction that led to him eating a Demonto driver for the win. Well, it was going to be the win, but just before the ref could make the 3 count, out came a third 440 member, Bobby Beverly, to pull him out of the ring. So as the match continued, Demonto tried pulling off Eric Ryan's stomps, but was pulled into a roll-up for the 3 count. Even with a little bit of wonkiness there at the end, this match brought more to the table than your typical death match, and that was a story. The next match that I think is a must-watch this month was the main event at the Horror Slam vs. GCW4 show on May 19th. Which can be found on YouTube, by the way, but Horror Slam World Champion Malcolm Monroe III was putting his belt on the line against the challenger, John Wayne Murdoch. To start this match off, Murdoch just rolled out of the ring and said he's out. He said he had stuff to do, he had a GCW show coming up tomorrow, but instead he caught some flying light tubes to the face with a suicide dive from Malcolm. For the next 15 minutes, these two put on one heck of a match where I think Malcolm proved that he is still on the rise in the deathmatch scene, and he isn't new by any means, but I think he's honestly overlooked. All I'm saying is just keep him on your radar for the future because he didn't miss a step with Murdoch here throughout this entire match. He would put Murdoch tailbone first through some light tubes on the ring apron and even took a nasty looking half Nelson suplex through a pane of glass. I like how Murdoch later had this genius idea to headbutt a double-sided gusset plate right into the head of Malcolm for some reason. And then after a small pane of glass didn't cooperate, Murdoch almost took himself out with a running senton. Things just didn't seem to be working out in his favor tonight because his plans were foiled yet again with a back body drop onto a whole set of tubes. I want to point out how MM3's kicks proved to be devastating in this match. Malcolm was close to winning several times here, but things started to look a little grim once Satu Jin showed up ringside to try and help out his buddy Murdoch. Malcolm tried to use some chloroform that he pulled out of his jacket, but just as Murdoch started to fade, Jin ran into him from behind with some light tubes, shoving Murdoch down on top of him. The ref counted to 3, and you can mark it down in the history books, folks. John Wayne Murdoch picks up the win, becoming the new Horror Slam World Champion. At XPW Broken, Beaten, Scarred, we saw Eric Dillinger make his XPW debut against the always exciting veteran, Lucky 13. Jump-starting things in a big way, Dillinger hit 2 dives, one of which had some impressive hang time. It was obvious to me both of these guys came into this match looking to steal the show, and arguably, they did. There were nice-looking frog splashes, we had painful-looking back body drops out of the ring, and just brutal-looking light tube shots. During all of this, Dillinger found time to light a cigar, only for Lucky 13 to rip it away from him and put it out on his chest before slamming him down through a chair and light tubes. Lucky 13 was not about to be outdone when it comes to the high-flying department because he placed Dillinger's head through a chair and gave one of the most devastating-looking double stomps I have ever seen in my life. That was obviously enough to get the win, and Lucky 13 spoils the debut of Dillinger, but wow, what a match between these two. I think this was easily one of the best matches to come out of the month of May, so go check it out in its full entirety right now. Murder Mania. Okay, this one may be cheating just a little bit because New Fear City and Circle 6 put on a no-ring deathmatch show during WrestleMania weekend, but it wasn't released on YouTube until this month, so I mean, it counts to me. So just if you want to, put an asterisk by it. So in the main event at Murder Mania 2023, Casanova Valentine went to war with Atticus Cogar. The crowd brought this great energy that blended perfectly with the intensity of both Valentine and Cogar. Surprisingly, Cogar was the one to introduce the dreaded Garden Weasel into the match. And a little less surprising, we saw a crucifix used as a weapon. Yes, of course, it was also used upside down. There was one point where Cogar climbed up to the second floor just to leap off down onto Casanova and a whole pile of people. And Jesus Christ, look at this crimson mask Cogar had going here. Casanova tried his best not to be completely dominated by putting Cogar through a door with a black hole slam. But his claw slam failed on multiple occasions early on, resulting in Cogar eventually pulling out the skewers. And when I say skewers, I mean a shitload of skewers. They were stuck all over the body of Valentine here. As a human pincushion, he was able to finally claw slam Atticus, but he couldn't get the win off of it. And if that wasn't going to get the win, surely a suplex through a crazy light tube contraption would. There it is. Casanova Valentine picks up the win in one of the funnest yet most intense no-ring death matches you are going to see all year long. May 2023 was a great month for Deathmatch Wrestling. I think next month in June, we got Tournament of Survival coming up. We got some big tournaments stacked down the line coming up. I think we're only going to ramp up for here. But I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please let me know down below. What are you liking? What are you not liking? What do you want to see? Did you like the Deathmatch Archive debut? Was it cool? Do you want to see that again, or was it it wasn't your thing? Either way, though, I thank you so much. Please spread the word of the Jobber Radio Deathmatch Rundown. Spread the word for just Jobber Radio in general. You can follow us on Twitter at Jobber Radio. I'm pretty terrible at Instagram. I'm trying to get into the groove of Instagram. So if you want, you can follow at Jobber Radio. I'm trying my best over there. Stick around for the final montage because it is a doozy this month. I had so much footage this month that I just couldn't put enough into this episode. Honestly, there was so much more to show you guys. And I'm closing with this. Please support independent wrestling, support deathmatch wrestling, support the wrestlers, the promoters, the promotions, the other fans out there. Support each other, support content creators, support everybody. Stop fighting each other. Come on, guys. Come on. And as I always say, don't be a dick. Don't be a pirate. Okay, support the ones that do what we all love. Thank you, everybody.
Look how high he is. Oh my God! Holy moly cannoli! Holy fucking shit! There it is again. That was 25 feet in the air.